Hi, my name is Theresa Graham, running for school board, Duval County, seat 2. And I'm here today, an honor and privilege to be here. I just want to tell you a few things about myself. I've been in Jacksonville over 23 years. I moved here from the Midwest, the ocean. My family and I, we offshore fish, saltwater fishing, running are my hobbies. I'm a strong conservative, fiscally conservative, stand on strong values and morality and Christianity, and are a strong believer in faith. About my children, they've attended public schools, they've been homeschooled, private schooled, so I'm a strong advocate for school choice. I just believe that the children are why we have our doors open in Duval County to children, and we need to let our teachers teach. And so I stand on those principles of allowing them to teach and the forefront of letting them teach and teach the children not in the way they need to be taught, so that they can excel, because this is our next generation and we need to value and put value and esteem into our next generation.
There are numerous records and reports of American history being rewritten in Florida textbooks. Have you reviewed any of these examples, and what will you do to ensure the accuracy of historical texts?
One example that I found was, I don't know specifically what book you were talking about, but I know one textbook that was found, that was a history, was 36 pages where one whole entire chapter was devoted to Islam. And of course, a lot of the Christianity has been kind of forced out, mainstream, not allowed in schools, not allowed in public schools, the Bible's not allowed. Yet we had a textbook that had a whole entire chapter devoted to Islam and Sharia law and everything that it stands for, its core values, where it actually massacred Christianity and made Christianity look bad, and Islam a better religion. But then there's other cases too where history's being rewritten. You know, they've rewritten certain battles or hidden certain battles in attempts to move away from the area where the battle took place so that they could build homes, or maybe even an Indian reservation or a burial ground where housing was built over that, because we didn't want people to know that there was an Indian burial ground there, because they're supposed to be held sacred. So you would manipulate and hide. But ultimately, history is trying to be written through core values to promote other agendas other than Christianity, and to lead our public and our children into viewpoints, toward a socialistic mindset. And what can you do about it? You just have to capture those books and try to get truth brought into brought truth brought, because our forefathers are probably turning in their graves. You know, they fought battles and died on Christian JJO principles to have freedom of Christian rights, and that's why they came to this nation, so that we were one nation under God, indivisible, United States of America.
Thank you. Duval County continues to perform poorly on the FCAT. What would you want to change to improve student performance?
Well, the FCAT, they're trying to currently replace I believe the FCAT had its good points, but it also had its bad points. Personally, with my own experience with it, I had a son in the 3rd grade that was, I believe not all boys are learning challenged, but many boys learn to read differently, or they're behind where girls do, where the age is where they learn to read. My boy had some specific issues that were learning differences. He didn't learn to read like other children did, so he was a little bit behind. And so he was in a special program in that school, but I was told if he didn't pass the FCAT, he would be held back. So I had to move him to another school. Strong advocate of school choice. If the peg doesn't fit in the circle, so to speak, I think the FCAT was really pounding in. Not every child, the square child, didn't fit in the circle, and you're trying to put every single child into the same mold, and every child's different. And we have to look at, children learn to read different ages as well. So if boys are a little bit behind, or you have a child with learning differences, we should accommodate that and not force them into a structure where everybody learns on a mold. So the FCAT, everybody's learning how to do the FCAT. How do we tear that down now and rebuild a different program? Because now we're going to have to train all of the teachers and retrain all of the students to a completely different system.
There are numerous reports that reading assignments are not age appropriate and are not representative of true content learning. Have you reviewed any of these examples, and what will you do to ensure that text is appropriate?
Well, again, that goes back to kind of where my son, in his situation. But let the teachers teach. If you've got a room full of children and age appropriate, these books are over their age, especially with sexual agendas, for instance. You know, I come from in the public school that I was in, Chet's Creek, for example. I don't know if I'm supposed to say the school specific. But in that school, when those programs were brought in, the parent was allowed to come in and view the programs themselves. And if they didn't approve of the program, they were allowed to sign a form that would opt their child out of that program. And I felt that was good. And I did opt my children out of those programs. I did not allow them, because I don't believe that sexual education, sex education should be taught by teachers in a school. I believe the parents should have that responsibility. It's the parents' responsibility, number one, to educate your children. And I believe that issue should have been kept behind closed doors privately. And there was some agendas in there that I didn't really want my children subjected to. So my children opted out of that program. So I think that's great, giving the parents the know-how, giving them the education and knowledge of the programs that you're bringing in, and having them make the choice of whether they want their children to receive that, and allowing those teachers to know what's age appropriate and what's not.
Thank you. Do you support school choice and the use of vouchers, and why?
I definitely do, because I'm an advocate for that as well. I also participate in that. I've homeschooled my children. I've had them in public schools, private schools, and charter schools. I've utilized every program. The one missing link of all of that is I never was given a voucher, so that I would have a tax credit, so that I could put my child and utilize those dollars in a different direction. So charter schools are really good right now. You're still moving the governmental dollars to the charter schools, but you're getting a more broad choice spectrum for your child, because every child is different, and you're educating the whole child, and that parent has a right and should have a choice on where their child should be educated and what's best for their child. Because they might have one child in their family that's perfect at public school, but another child that needs to go to a private school based on their needs. And we should be able to give them that right and support them financially in that decision.
On the issue of Common Core, please explain where you stand on the national standards and the national assessments.
Common Core really is a scheme to rewrite education. I believe that there's hidden agendas. It's coming fast. It's coming down. It's almost coming too quickly. I think it came in the back door. I think America really needs to wake up on this area. We're really taking away rights, I feel, from states, districts, counties, away from principals, teachers, students, parents. We're taking away rights, and we're doing a all across the board mandate nationally. You look at people who sponsor it. You've got Bill Gates, billionaire Bill Gates sponsoring it. You've got the Department of Education behind it. And, the states such as Florida are trying to do it differently. Texas, of course, has strong objectives to certain things. We need to make sure that we're putting people in office that are really keeping an eye on this and standing the guard at the gates, so to speak, to keep these agendas out. We don't want agendas such as homosexuality, Islamic propaganda, Sharia law. We don't want these kind of things coming in and creeping in, and we're looking at, all of that moves towards socialism. We have to wake up, America. It's time to get off the iPod and off the Facebook and really start paying attention to what's really happening with the children, because our children are our future, the next millennial generation. We need to really take care and watch what the future holds for our future, because they are our future, our kids, our children.
Recent legislation requires that an appeals process must be set up when parents object to textbooks or learning materials. How would you propose preventing objectionable material from being taught during the appeals process?
Well, I know that right now, parents still have rights according to our legislation here in Florida. How that's going to change with the national core, that's what I'm alarmed about. The process of, some states, when they came in and tried to take books out that their children were reading, I've heard stories of some parents being put in jail because they did it forcefully or they did it against the rules and they did not want their children. But there again, that goes back to parental choice also. Can I take my child out and put them in a more appropriate school if there's books in a school? But go through the system and try to get things removed. But number one, we need to make sure that we vote for and elect legislators that are going to maintain the parents' rights first, over mandates, and to go through the process. And you may have to have your child opt out of a program, opt out of a book. Make sure that child's brought out of the classroom, move them to a different class if it's an inappropriate book, until we can get the mandates through and the approval process through to get that book removed if it's appropriately necessary to do so.
Do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you so much for having me, First Coast Tea Party. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you for what you're fighting for. You're fighting for morality and standards and core values and Christian JOD beliefs. and things that I stand for. And I think as a school board, we need to make sure for our parents and for our children, we're looking after, we be a gatekeeper, so to speak, to keep out issues such as homosexuality, Sharia law, Islamic agenda, other agendas, and make sure that we're standing strong and fighting for children. And that's what I want to do. I want to fight for children, give them the best education that they deserve. And parents deserve the best too for their tax dollar. They're putting a lot of money in, paying high taxes on property values. And I do not want to raise taxes. I want to keep taxes low and allow the education to be high and a high standard of education. And especially for ESE kids, for children that have learning differences, we should have the best programs. No child should be left behind. And I just want to come in and make sure that however that I can, I feel honored, and I just ask you to vote for me, Theresa Graham. You can check me out on Facebook at facebook.com/Theresa Graham for school board. And I just appreciate it and thank you and ask you for your vote. Thank you. Vote August 26th.